Hello. Today we're going to learn about the information in Chapter 2. The three key elements of voice production are respiration, phonation, resonation. So we're going to talk about all the terms, like respiration. I know what breathing is, but how is breathing used in our voice and our diction? We learned a little bit about it in the beginning, how some sounds release more air than others. We learned about breathiness, letting out too much air as voice quality. So we're going to expand. We're going to introduce what phonation means, and we're going to learn what resonation means. So what I have done in chapter 4, I have listed about 70 something words that we have talked about in our lecture notes, in our class discussion, and some in chapter 2, and some additional ones. So the exam for chapter 2 is the exam 2 is based on the information from chapter 2 plus 4, and there are about 70 odd words. So let me share my screen with you right now, and I'm going to show you your book in one moment because it did not stay. And here we are sharing our book. So you're going to read and understand the information in chapter 2, and I'm going to just flip through it so you can see how we open up and discuss what respiration means. Yes, it is breathing, but for our purposes, for voice, we use what is called diaphragmatic breathing, which we're going to introduce to you the two types of breathing, one that we use every day and one that is preferred for voice and diction. And then we get into a term called phonation, which is the actual creation of sound, and what apparatus in your throat larynx. We're going to learn about all these words. And then we're going to flip to the next page, and we have some photos of some of the anatomy that we're going to be talking about. You certainly can look up any of these on Grey's Anatomy, not the TV show, or in Google and get better pictures, as well as some have videos. So you can actually see the movement. But for our purposes, the book is limited to this area. And then we're going to, again, identify all of these vocal elements in our body that we use, and there's more photos. And the last one is resonation. And there are wonderful exercises to help you sound, to fill a room, perhaps. Okay, or for digital purposes. So that's chapter 2. And again, more photos and more explanation to help you understand resonation. So now I'm going to skip to chapter 4. And you're going to see that there are lists of words. And this was designed so that after you listened to the lectures preceding, you can fill in the blanks and understand what these definitions are. But for our purposes, we are going to use chapter 4 as a guide to understand all the material covered and new information as well. So the list is about 72 words, I believe, and I've put them up on your Blackboard in note-taking form, but certainly listening through the lecture, you can add additional notes. I will have this lecture divided into 2 parts for your time management purposes, and so it's about 36 words and then 36 words. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing your book, and I'm going to put up your notes that I placed up onto Blackboard. And you'll notice the highlighted word in green is the word that we are defining. Okay, so let's begin. Affected speech. Well, we heard the word cause, effect, affect. So affect is the aftermath. So if we were just to give it an analogy, war. War is an effect, the cause, right? Disagreement, and the affect of war, devastation. So that's what we're looking at. And it says changing or altering your speech behavior. So the exercises that we've done thus far and the ones that we're going to add, we're working on altering your conversational speech into career speech. We're making you very conscious, not very, we're making you conscious, making you aware that there are listeners, and these listeners can't always grasp everything you're saying when you speak 125 words a minute. And if you're talking in a doctor's office and you're trying to display information from the doctor, and there's a vocabulary that they don't understand, but you've used it all the time, so it's easy for you to talk fast. Yeah. So it's your career. How are you going to affect your speech for your career? For teaching purposes, for broadcasting purposes, for acting purposes, for listeners in general, for counseling purposes, and the list continues. So changing or altering your speech behavior. Example, a professional or career speech is different from your conversational speech. And I forgot the word is there. So when we talk about a local regionalism is affected speech, as you may acquire a different speech behavior according to the region. So you grew up in New York, your speech is going to be affected by the local speech behavior. You're going to sound like your environment. If I went to Boston, I'm going to have a Boston accent, pack the can, the bag in. If I grew up in the South, I'm going to have these gorgeous vowel sounds. And here we learned in our lecture before that in this region we substitute some sounds for others, we omit some sounds, we add some sounds. That's what makes us not easily understood globally. So you're taking this course, and this course is teaching you the two different types of speaking. And that process from going from one speaking behavior to the other is called affected speech. The next is articulation. We did cover in the beginning that diction and articulation are synonymous, and it is the ability to produce the sounds of the language. So in this class, we're perfecting our standard American English sounds. We know that there's 43 to 44 sounds, because the WH sound in our course will be produced as a W sound, which is W. Okay, so there's 43. And these consonant sounds, you want to produce them not only in isolation, one at a time, but in consonant clusters. Eat, street, strange, stroller, dream, drawer, instead of dream drawer. And we'll get into that in chapter 5. Career speech, we discussed using your newly trained speech in your job or job-related areas. In college, it's the journey to the job. In most of your classes or courses, we do have writing and speaking. In a marketing class, you're going to have marketing writing assignments. You're going to have speaking assignments, because that's what a marketer does, right? Consonants. To produce consonant sounds, you need to manipulate your articulators. Okay, so this is the definition of what is a consonant. And we cannot describe what is a consonant without describing how you produce a consonant sound. How do you make a consonant sound? Well, in order to make a consonant sound, we need to use our articulators. So, what are our articulators? There are lips, our tongue, our teeth, alveolar ridge, which is the front portion of the roof of the mouth, the hard palate, which is the middle bony region of the palate of your mouth, the roof of your mouth, and the soft palate, which is all the way back, the farthest portion of the roof of the mouth. Its scientific name is velum. And then we have the glottis, which is the space between the vocal folds. So before, in another lecture, I had shown you vocal folds, When they're talking, they move. When they're sleeping. So the space between them is the glottis. And again, if you wanted to Google glottis, there'll probably be expert photos for you to see. So in combination, these articulators in combination make sounds. So our two lips together, b. Our tongue can't make a sound by itself. So let me hook it up with the teeth. Put the tongue between the teeth. Z. Okay, put the tongue to the alveolar ridge. La, ta, da. Okay, put the tongue, not the tip, but the side, to the hard palate. You can feel how the sides of the tongue go to the sides of the teeth in the upper palate. And then g, which you can't feel, and please don't put your finger down. And then you cannot feel that because it's the space between your vocal folds. So again, we'll go into that, but just so you have an example of how we use our articulators to produce all of the consonant sounds. Then we had this new word, diphthong, which are two vowel sounds combined. An example, ow as in out, I as in I'm or I, oi as in toy, you as in universe. Okay, what is habitual? It's routine. We have a routine pitch, for example, that we do not think about as we would when practicing and using pitch variety. Right? You say good morning. You don't think, should I say good morning? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Each one of those are inferred, because the listener infers the interpretation of the message differently. But in your everyday routine, you don't think about it. You think of pleasantries. Thank you. You're welcome. Goodbye. Hello. How are you? But in pitch variety, as you showed me in your manuscript, when we are using manuscript speaking, we are thinking more about pitch variety in how we say what we say, accordingly to adding more meaning to the message. Yes, you can transfer it into your conversation or into your career. That is up to you. But you have, you have the tool now. I am so sorry. You have the tool to know how to do that. Inflection, we've heard that word before, which is change in pitch. But sometimes when we change our pitch, good morning, we may change our volume. Good morning. I may soften it with a higher pitch. Good morning. I may make it louder with a lower pitch. I can slow it down. I can speed it up. Good morning. Good morning. So I can do so much with my pitch variety. But really, inflection is the change in pitch. That's the first step. Probably unconsciously you do it, but because that is what the listener is inferring. They're perceiving what the message is by your inflection, which is the pitch. International Phonetic Alphabet is, the acronym is IPA. No, not your beer. So we always use IPA. You write it in IPA. We're going to be learning IPA shortly. So you need to know that there is a separate alphabet that is designed for symbols of the sounds that are in the word.